Coming off of Jak 3, I was only a kid and I thought for sure that Jak 4 was coming out. Instead, we ended up getting a racing game for this series. Because I'm not into racing games, I completely skipped out on playing this and only realized years later that this was actually canon to the franchise. If you have played 1 through 3, then you already know the stark contrast in gameplay with this versus those games, so you might understand why I skipped it. But with me being a massive Jak and Daxter fan, I had to give this game a try, and by the time I rolled credits, I'm glad I did, even though I wish it was Jak 4 instead.
You saw it here, folks. At least those of you who didn't die yawning or switch to the brand channel. An unknown driver wins his first big race in lackluster fashion. So, tell us what happened out there. Were you frightened?
The gameplay is as simple as it gets for Jak X. You're just racing. All you're doing is going against other cars in a variety of races. That in it of itself is a con for me off rip. I love this series so much and hate the fact that we got a racing game after the epic conclusion to Jak 3. But as I started playing this game, I realized that it was pretty fun. There's a lot more features and aspects to this than I was expecting, and once you understand how it works, it's pretty entertaining. So the game is broken up by qualifying for certain matches that would allow you to compete for the Grand Prix. Within those matches are a variety of modes including normal races, deathmatch, capture, circuit race, freeze rally, and others. The amount of different races made it really easy to gravitate to one over the others. In all honesty, I didn't like the normal races at all. The other modes were cool, but just your typical get in first place races were the worst. Getting ahead was always a chore, and then once you were able to get in first place, keeping that position was even more difficult. Many times I might max out the speed on my car and still get passed from behind. If that didn't happen, then I would always get shot by some car with a weapon on it from behind. This could be a missile or these mines that automatically destroy your vehicle instantly. When this happens, you would be placed all the way in the back, usually in last place, and have to fight your way all the way to first again. My issue wasn't the challenge, it just felt cheap that the other drivers could shoot you from so far back, and to make things worse, you could never truly separate from the other drivers too. As fast as I would go, you would think that if you drove perfectly, which I did at times, you'd be able to gain some distance, right? Wrong. That almost never happened. It's like the game was designed to keep you always within a certain distance of the other cars to make the races harder than they needed to be. And this was the case for every normal race. It was ridiculous. Now on the other hand, most of my enjoyment with this gameplay came from the other types of races. One in particular that I really liked was the freeze rally. In this mode, you would have to drive through these icons which would freeze the time for a bit before the timer would continue. Some of them were for 2 seconds, while others could be for 15. It all varied. Regardless, trying to get all the freeze icons and get a high score was really fun. Being honest, all the other races outside of the normal ones were fun because those issues that I mentioned before didn't exist. It's a shame that this was the case, but it is what it is. So if you didn't get it by now, this game is very repetitive, as most racing games are. You're just cycling through all the races to earn enough medals to get to the qualifier match. As you win races, the cutscenes play, and you do that until you beat the game. There isn't much else to it in regards to the overall gameplay loop, which you may or may not like. It's worth noting that you earn orbs from getting placements in races that you can use towards upgrades and attachments for your vehicle. An example would be if you wanted to increase your speed. Once you saved up enough orbs, you'd be able to increase the stat for the vehicle of your choice. That concept was the same for all the other stats that would give you an advantage during the races. Not every vehicle had the same stats, but they were all pretty similar. I think upgrading your cars is so important in this because of how hard it is to gain a clear advantage during these races. There was an exhibition mode where you could use any of the cars available along with the other characters you unlocked as you got deeper into the story. I didn't play this mode much, but it is there if you wanted to practice or just play as people other than Jak. One area that I thought was done well was the stages for each of the races. Sometimes the tracks themselves were a bit annoying, but the actual scenery and layout was really cool. The team actually turned the areas from other games into their own tracks that you could race on. So when you're on the menu and you're seeing where this particular race is going to be, it's probably going to be an area that you recognize. Then to make things even better, the OST for this game was awesome. It was fast and upbeat, exactly what you would expect to see from a racing game. If there was one thing that I remember the most from my time playing this, it would be the music, because it really is that good. Honestly, that's about it in regards to gameplay. It's pretty basic, and I enjoyed it a lot when I wasn't doing normal races, which was a huge chunk of the gameplay, unfortunately. Nevertheless, I was impressed with how it felt to actually go through all the races, especially for a game where the races were never at the forefront of the gameplay. The story for Jak X was just okay. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. To put it simply, you're forced to race to save your lives after you're poisoned during a celebration. How you get poisoned was done well, but who you're poisoned by by was a bit of a stretch. If you played this, then you know what I'm talking about. It's pretty unbelievable that the character who poisons you is capable of having children, but I digress. You meet a variety of new and familiar faces all while racing through the different areas. Once you complete some races, the cutscenes will play, giving you additional story beats to unravel the plot just a little bit more. One thing that I really liked about this story is that, similar to Jak 2, you didn't know who the true villain was until the end. I love games that don't put the villains right in your face, but instead add a bit of mystery behind them. It's nice having to guess who really is behind all the events going on, instead of everything being spoon-fed to you. This game definitely hid this person's intentions until the end of the story, and I think it paid off for sure. It made the final race more high stakes and added more drama to an already tense situation. What I think this story does poorly is just the setup. The whole poisoning thing just felt like a reason to get everyone back together, not a continuation of what was set up in the other Jak games. And as someone who loves the original trilogy, that was a huge disappointment. The writers still did a good job because the story in this game makes sense and it's cohesive. It's just a plot that nobody asked for because they made a game that not many people wanted. Because of this, I didn't care about the plot as much as I would have liked to. It felt like more of a side story than anything else. Just a little adventure instead of being the big step forward that we're accustomed to. Regardless, you should find some sort of enjoyment going through this for the first time, but don't expect this story to hit like in the trilogy. Overall, Jak X is just okay. It's not a bad game, but it's not good either. It's definitely fun, but I can't help but feel like this wasn't necessary. Like, why not make a Jak 4 after finishing 3? Why take the time and resources to make a racing game? If anything, I would have rather had a smaller side game with the same style of gameplay as before than a racing game. To be fair though, what we got was fun, even though it's definitely got its flaws, so it's not all bad. Nonetheless, this game is definitely not what I wanted coming off of Jak 3. For those reasons, I'm gonna give this game a 7. Like I already said, this game isn't bad, it's just not what I was expecting. Since I'm a huge Jak and Daxter fan, I was going to play this regardless, but man, it was disappointing to know what we could have gotten instead. However, to take this series and make an entire racing game around it is a huge task within itself, and the fact it turned out the way it did was an impressive feat for sure. It's a shame because in my opinion, this game was really what signaled the downfall of this series. I still think that you should play this, but don't expect anything near the level of greatness that was the original trilogy. What did you think about Jak X? Did you play this before, or are you hearing about this for the first time? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, feel free to watch one of my other reviews right here.